It was a bright, hot afternoon in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, when President Ibrahim Traoré finished a surprise visit to a local school. As his convoy waited at the curb with engines quietly humming, something caught his eye. By the roadside, slumped against a cracked, dusty wall, sat a man with a tin cup before him. His clothes were torn and stained, his hair streaked with uneven patches of gray, and his sunken eyes carried the weight of years of hardship. Passers-by moved on without a glance, as if he were part of the pavement itself. Ibrahim's brow furrowed as recognition slowly dawned. "Wait here," he told his security, his voice leaving no room for argument. The man looked up, squinting against the sunlight, his lips parting in disbelief. "Ibrahim," his voice cracked. Ibrahim's chest tightened as he stepped closer, searching the gaunt face. Musa. Yes, it was him, once full of life, now just a shadow of his former self. Musa tried to rise, his knees trembling. "It's really you," he whispered. "It's me," Ibrahim said, gripping his shoulder firmly. "What happened to you?" Tears welled in Musa's eyes, quickly brushed away. "It's a long story, not one I ever thought I'd tell you, not like this." Ibrahim's response was immediate. "Come with me. We'll talk." When Musa glanced at his bare feet and protested that he wasn't fit to enter the presidential car, Ibrahim's tone left no space for refusal. "You're my friend. That's what matters." Minutes later, Musa found himself at the presidential residence. He bathed, changed into clean clothes, and was seated before steaming dishes. He ate slowly, almost cautiously, as if the food might vanish. Between bites, his eyes flickered between gratitude and shame. When the plates were cleared, Ibrahim poured 2 glasses of juice and sat across from him. "Now," he said gently, "tell me. You were one of the brightest me, and I knew. What happened?" Musa stared at his glass, then sighed deeply. "It started 3 years ago," he began. He spoke of his life as a respected school principal in Bobo Dioulasso, how he had built a small house from his savings and married a woman named Stella. "At first, we were happy, or so I thought, but she grew distant, always on her phone, quick to snap over nothing. I thought it was stress. I ignored the signs." His voice faltered as he continued. "One afternoon I came home early and found her in our bed with another man." Ibrahim's jaw tightened. "What did you do?" "I walked out," Musa whispered. "I couldn't fight. I was shaking, and she didn't even apologize. She followed me outside and said it was over, told me to leave my own house because he was the one she loved now." Ibrahim's eyes narrowed. "Leave the house you built?" "Yes," Musa said bitterly. "I refused. She took me to court, lied that she'd paid for the house, even brought fake documents. The judge believed her. I was thrown out." The devastation didn't end there. Musa lost his job as every bit of his savings went to lawyers. Soon he had nothing. No home, no work, no dignity. He stayed with a friend briefly, but shame ate at him. Eventually, he left and ended up under bridges, begging for scraps, eating once a day if he was lucky. "Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her laughing with him," he said, his head bowed as tears slipped down his cheeks. "I became a shadow. I wanted to die, Ibrahim. I truly wanted to die." President Ibrahim Traoré rose from his chair, his voice steady but full of warmth. "Musa, you didn't deserve any of this, but I promise you, your story will change." When Musa's eyes lifted slowly, and he expressed amazement that Ibrahim still called him friend after seeing him in such a state, Ibrahim's gaze softened. "Musa, I never stopped." That night, Musa slept soundly for the first time in years. Meanwhile, Ibrahim sat in his office, papers scattered before him untouched, his thoughts fixed on the man who had once stood by his side in school, sharing books, shielding him from bullies, urging him to dream. He gripped his pen with quiet resolve, determined to give his friend a fresh start. The next morning, Musa awoke to the scent of warm bread and fried eggs. The soft bed, clean sheets, and neatly folded clothes felt unreal compared to the cold pavement of the day before. A staff member entered with breakfast, addressing him respectfully as "Sir" at the president's request. As Musa ate, one thought kept repeating. "Yesterday I was a beggar. Today I'm a guest in the presidential residence. What will tomorrow bring?" Later in the garden, Ibrahim greeted him warmly. "Musa, your story broke my heart," he said. When Musa murmured that he didn't mean to bring trouble into Ibrahim's home, the president replied firmly, "You didn't bring trouble. You brought truth, and truth should lead to action." Ibrahim had made arrangements, first a doctor's visit, then something special he wanted to show him. By afternoon, Musa had been examined, given medicine, and received his first haircut in years. The man in the mirror was no longer the broken figure from the roadside. His eyes carried a faint spark of hope. Ibrahim drove him to the city's edge, stopping before a small cream and brown house with a neat garden. "It's beautiful," Musa said quietly. "Whose is it?" "It's yours," Ibrahim replied with a smile. Musa's voice faltered as he protested that it was too much, but Ibrahim assured him the house was fully paid and no one could take it from him. "Why would you do this for me?" Musa whispered. "Because I remember who you are," Ibrahim said, his eyes glistening. "You gave me books when I had none. You defended me when I was alone. You believed in me before I believed in myself." When Musa shook his head, overcome, saying he had only done what friends do, Ibrahim placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "And now I'm doing the same." Inside, the home was warm and welcoming. A cozy living room, clean kitchen, bright bedroom, and even a small office with a desk and bookshelf. Ibrahim had also opened a bookshop and school supply store for Musa next to a secondary school. "You'll run it, and I'll cover the first year's expenses. I know your love for education. Let's put it to use." For the first time in years, Musa's tears were not from pain, but from hope. Over the following weeks, Musa's life transformed completely. He ran the store with discipline and care, welcoming students daily who came for pens, notebooks, and textbooks. Some stayed to ask questions about their studies, and Musa never turned them away. "You can't just memorize," he would tell struggling students, pointing at problems. "Understand the steps and the answer will follow." Word spread quickly, and people in the community began greeting him again, not as a beggar, but as Mr. Musa, a man who had risen from the ground up. One Saturday afternoon, while arranging books, he heard a soft voice behind him. "Musa." He turned, and the book nearly slipped from his hand. Standing at the door was Stella, his ex-wife. Her face was pale, her clothes plain and worn, her jewelry gone. Beside her sat a small suitcase. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. Outside the shop, Musa folded his arms. "What do you want, Stella?" Tears filled her eyes as she explained that she had nowhere to go. The man she had chosen over him had sold their house, emptied her account, and run off with another woman. She had lost everything, and was asking if she could stay, just for a while. Musa looked at her for a long moment. This was the woman who had once walked away without a backward glance. "Stella," he said calmly, "I forgave you long ago, but I've moved on. My life is peaceful now. You chose your road, and I've chosen mine." When she pleaded for even just a room, Musa replied steadily, "I wish you well, but this is not your home." Without another word, he turned and walked back into the shop. That night, Musa called Ibrahim and simply said, "She came back." When Ibrahim asked what happened, Musa replied, "I told her no." Ibrahim's smile could be heard in his voice. "I'm proud of you." Musa reflected, "You didn't just give me a house and a business, you gave me back my dignity." Life settled into a quiet rhythm. The shop flourished, and Musa became more than just a shopkeeper. He was a helper, a listener, almost a father figure to many students and teachers. One Friday morning, as he arranged pens on the counter, the bell above the door rang. A woman in a simple blue dress stepped in, her smile warm and eyes bright. She introduced herself as Grace, a teacher at the nearby secondary school, and complimented him on how welcoming the shop felt and how he helped children who couldn't afford supplies. Over the weeks, Grace became a familiar part of Musa's days. Sometimes she came for teaching supplies, other times just to greet him. Their conversations grew warmer, often extending into shared lunches she brought from home. Musa would walk her back to the school and they would swap stories, some bittersweet, others full of quiet laughter. Grace had known loss too. She was a widow raising her daughter alone, and understood both grief and the slow work of healing. One evening, sitting outside the shop as the sky burned gold, Grace told him, "You're a strong man." Musa shook his head. "I don't feel strong, just grateful I'm still here." "No," she replied steadily. "You went through the fire and chose kindness. That's strength." Musa's eyes softened. "I never thought I'd meet someone like you." Grace looked down, smiling faintly. "And I never thought I'd smile like this again." That night, Musa called Ibrahim. "I think I've met someone, Kawai," he said. Ibrahim chuckled. "Musa, the lover boy." "Not like that," Musa laughed. "She's different, calm, wise, full of light." Ibrahim replied warmly, Then don't let that light go. You deserve joy. Musa took his time with the relationship, and Grace's daughter Rachel soon began visiting the shop, helping arrange books and sitting in the reading corner Musa built just for her. He treated her like his own child, teaching, encouraging, and listening. One sunny afternoon, Musa invited Grace and Rachel to a quiet garden. Kneeling with a small ring in his hand, he said, "I don't have much to give, but I have peace, respect, and love. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in Grace's eyes. "Yes, Musa. 1,000 times yes." Rachel squealed and hugged them both. Their wedding was small but full of joy, with friends, neighbors, and President Traoré in attendance. After the ceremony, Traoré pulled Musa aside. "You look like a man who's found peace." "I have," Musa replied. Ibrahim placed a hand on his shoulder. "You found it because you never gave up." Months later, Musa's life was complete. He had a loving wife, a daughter who adored him, a thriving business, and a home filled with laughter. He launched a foundation to help men who had lost everything, opening a shelter that offered training and small business skills. "I was once on that street," Musa told the first group. "One friend changed my story. Now I want to change yours." The Musa Foundation eventually helped over 50 men rebuild their lives. Some became mechanics, others opened small shops, barber stalls, or food stands. They all shared one thing in common. They believed again because Musa had believed in them first. Meanwhile, across town, Stella sat alone in a rented room. She had called Musa many times, but he never answered. Once she went to his shop, only to see a sign reading, "Closed this week for family reasons. See you next week." In the window was a photo of Musa and Grace holding hands, with Rachel smiling between them. Stella's vision blurred as she realized she had once held everything and thrown it away. Now Musa had what she had never valued. Slowly, she turned from the shop and walked down the dusty road, this time with nothing to her name. One afternoon, President Ibrahim Traoré called with a special request. "I want you to speak at the National Youth Conference. Your story needs to be heard." When Musa's name was announced, he walked to the stage in a neat gray suit, head held high. The applause was warm but respectful. He adjusted the microphone and began. "I was a man who lost everything. Not because I was lazy or foolish, but because I trusted the wrong person." He paused, scanning the audience. "My wife and her lover took everything from me. I was thrown out, mocked, and left with nothing but shame. But one hot afternoon as I sat hungry on the street, a man I once helped found me." Musa glanced toward Ibrahim in the front row. "The man didn't pity me or pass me by. He lifted me up and reminded me that broken things can still be made beautiful again." The hall was silent. Then he smiled. "Today I hold no anger. The best revenge is peace, joy, and moving forward. No matter how bad it gets, your story can change if you don't give up." The crowd rose to their feet in thunderous applause. That evening, back in their garden, Rachel played with their puppy as Musa and Grace sat side by side. "Do you still think about her?" Grace asked. "Not with anger," Musa said. "Just wonder how someone can throw away gold and pick up sand." Grace laughed softly. "She lost a good man and I gained a king," Musa replied, smiling at her. Far away, Stella worked in a small restaurant. The man she had left Musa for had taken her money and left her in debt. The house she had once taken from him was gone. She had even tried to end her life once but survived. Sometimes she scrolled through Musa's photos online. The interviews, the smiling family, the joy, each one cut deep. The man she thought would be nothing without her had become more than she could ever imagine. A year later, Musa was invited to the presidential palace for dinner. In the garden, Ibrahim handed him a small box. "What's this?" Musa asked. "An award," Ibrahim said with a smile, "for your work with the Musa Foundation." Inside was a golden medal. Musa hugged his friend tightly. "You didn't just change my life," he said. "You gave me the chance to change others too." "That's the power," Ibrahim replied, of one hand lifted in kindness. As the evening breeze moved through the garden, Musa looked up at the sky. "Who would have thought," he whispered, "that the man with nothing would one day have more than he ever dreamed?" His eyes shone, not with pain but with joy. The past was gone, the future was bright, and this time, no one could take it away. This story reminds us that no matter how far we fall, one act of kindness can be the first step back to hope. And the choice to rise is always ours.